Okay, if you found this video on YouTube, then I'm going to assume that you already know something about the Council of Nicea, and that you probably already know that there's many different things being said about it. I've seen videos on YouTube where people defended Dan Brown's view that he presented in the Da Vinci Code, and where he's basically said that Christianity was invented at the Council of Nicea, which is nonsense. Of course, how do you know that I'm right when I say this is nonsense? That's what I'm going to tell you in this video, hopefully briefly and quickly. I saw another one where a man from the Orthodox Church was uh, dispelling myths about the Council of Nicea. And a lot of what he said was true, but he also said that Constantine was not really responsible for the Council of Nicea. Why did he say that? Because what he said isn't true, and I'm going to tell you how I know it wasn't true and how you can know that too. There are many writings available from the time period of the Council of Nicea. We have the speech that Constantine gave to the Council of Nicea. At the start of it, we have a letter that Constantine wrote to the two principal people who were in combat with each other prior to the Council of Nicea. We have a letter that he wrote to the churches after the Council of Nicea, and we have a letter that the Council of Nicea itself wrote to the church in Alexandria and to the churches of Egypt after the council itself. We have a description of the council by Eusebius in his Life of Constantine, and we have several descriptions of it that are in history books that were written within a century to a century and a half of the time of the Council of Nicea. And these are the things that historians use to find out what was going on at the Council of Nicea. Anything else that people say is pure guesswork. They're just making it up. And I don't know, and I know that I don't want my history made up. I want real history. So I want to address a few questions that people generally ask about the Council of Nicea. So first, did Constantine call the council? Here's from his speech to the Council of Nicea at the beginning of it. In my judgment, internal strife within the Church of God is far more evil and dangerous than any kind of war or conflict, and these our differences appear to me more grievous than any outward trouble. I judged it as soon as I heard that news which I had least expected to receive, I mean the news of your dissension. I judged it to be of no secondary importance, but with the earnest desire that a remedy for this evil also might be found through my means, I immediately sent to require your presence. So Constantine did call it. He says that he called the meeting. Why did he call it? This is from his letter to Alexander and Arius, the two people who were in an argument that basically spread throughout the Eastern Church and led to the calling of the Council of Nicea. He writes, this is Constantine writing, and this is before the Council of Nicea. My design then was first to bring the diverse judgments formed by all nations respecting the deity to a condition, as it were, of settled uniformity, and secondly, to restore to health the system of the world, then suffering under the malignant power of a grievous distemper. Right there he's talking about his civil war with Licinius, his co-emperor, who had gone back to persecuting Christians. So he was overthrowing Licinius in order to bring everybody under one God, one religion, which is of course helpful to an emperor. Keeping these objects in view, I sought to accomplish the one by the secret eye of thought, while the other I tried to rectify by the power of military authority. For I was aware that if I should succeed in establishing, according to my hopes, a common harmony of sentiment among all the servants of God, the general course of affairs would also experience a change corresponding to the pious desires of them all. Now those are big words. This was translated a while back. But basically he's going, unity in the church and unity in the empire helps me. And it's a great evil for there to be discord in the empire. So that's why he called the Council of Nicea. He tried to reconcile Alexander and Arius by letter. It didn't accomplish anything. So he called the Council of Nicea, had everybody get together, and they covered, and that's the real question that everybody has had, is what did they cover? So, excuse me, I'm looking at my notes. Okay. This is the letter that the Council of Nicea wrote to the church in Alexandria, where the conflict had started, after the council. And their second paragraph says, "Since by the grace of God a great and holy synod has been convened at Nicaea, our most pious sovereign Constantine, having summoned us out of various cities and provinces for that purpose, it appeared to us indispensably necessary that a letter should be written to you on the part of the Sacred Synod, so that you may know what subjects were brought under consideration and examined, and what was eventually determined and decreed." So here's a letter that talks exactly about what was covered at the Council of Nicea. It never mentions the books of the Bible, because the books of the Bible weren't at question by the start of the 4th century. They covered two things, which is what day of the week that the Passover would be celebrated on. There were still some churches celebrating the Passover every year, which we call Easter. That's where Easter came from, is Passover. But they still called it Passover then. And the church celebrated Passover once a year, but some churches did it right on the date that the Jews did it, and other churches did it on the Sunday nearest to that date. So the Council of Nicea decided that the church everywhere should celebrate it on Sunday, not on the day of the week that the Jews were celebrating on, which is whatever day Nisan the 14th of the Jewish calendar fell on. The other thing was the heresy that Arius taught concerning the relationship between the Father and the Son. That heresy is actually pretty difficult to describe to modern Christians. It is both sides had a subtle difference from what we believe today, enough so that it would take me a few minutes to explain to you what exactly that the battle was over. But once you heard my explanation and read the Nicene Creed, you'll have no problems going, oh yeah, that's exactly what they were talking about. And I actually have a video here on YouTube concerning that. I think it's called The Trinity and the Council of Nicea, something like that. Okay, so what did they cover? They say, here's a letter that discusses all of that, what I just told you. The appendices of my book actually have Eusebius's letter to his home church at Caesarea. That's a very interesting letter because it discusses each line of the Nicene Creed and explains to his church why he said yes to it, because it's obvious that he thought that the Council of Nicea went a little bit too far in what they said. So he was justifying to the church back home as to why he signed it. And so you get a very insightful view into why they made the Nicene Creed and what exactly that they were discussing. Then also in here is Constantine's letter regarding the decisions of the Council of Nicea. And it focuses on both the timing of the Passover, Sunday versus whatever day of the week that Nisan the 14th falls on, and the relationship between God and his Son. The other thing that tells us what was covered at the Council of Nicea, because there were many small things that were covered, is the canons of the Council of Nicea. And I list those all in my book, but I also list those on my website at christian-history.com. And I don't actually remember the page. You can click Nicaea and you can get to all the canons of the Council of Nicea. There were 20, covering all sorts of little ecclesiastical regulations. They weren't major enough to be central topics to the council, but they were 20 decrees that came out from that council. From that, you get an absolutely clear view of what it is that the Council of Nicea covered. It dispels all the myths, answers all the questions between all the people who are saying what this council covered. I want to give you one more, which is that Constantine, did Constantine consider himself a Christian? Here's what he wrote in his letter regarding the decisions of the council. He says, "I myself was present at the assembly as one among yourselves. Far be it from me to deny that which is my greatest joy, that I am your fellow servant." So you can agree or disagree that Constantine was a Christian. Constantine felt that he was a Christian. He was not baptized, that he wasn't baptized until his deathbed is true. And I'm not sure why he was treated so much like a Christian by the churches. I have my own opinions about that, but that's not what this video is for. But I did want to give you those things and give you a basis for where the opinions and where solid opinions about the Council of Nicea come from. You can get made up opinions anywhere. You can make up your own. But if you want solid ones that are based on history, based on reality, this is where they come from. And you can find them in my book. Again, that's In the Beginning Was the Logos. You can go to lulu.com and you can pick up the ebook for $2 that'll give you all those references. Or you can go to ccel.org. There you can read them online for free, but you got to find them because they're kind of scattered through these history books that I told you about. And these history books are in volume 1 and 2 of the second series of the Nicene and post-Nicene Fathers. So I actually think the easiest way is to get my book, but that's up to you. Thank you very much for giving me your time. I hope this has been helpful to you. I'm going to be doing a few more videos like this that I hope I'll get to keep a little bit shorter. 11 minutes is longer than I wanted. Have a great day.